heart of the fall asleep to medieval pilgrimage, walking to Canterbury for weeks' tedious historical journey, there is a small fire burning just for you. Nasrallah here. As the flames dance and the wood crackles, your eyes are becoming heavy. We have a long journey ahead, but for now, just watch the sparks fly upward. Sleep is coming. The wood crackles low now. The amber glow fades to ash. We watch the fire breathe. Hear the deep, soft hum of the heat. The scent of burning pine sticks to your cloak. It is the scent of the road, the scent of endless days. Listen, the wind whispers secrets over the marsh, secrets of the path we walked. We walked for weeks, weeks of dust and rain and aching feet. They told you it was piety, a sacred path to St. Thomas Becket. But what if the greatest miracle of Canterbury was not the healing, but the profound, shocking, agonizing boredom of the walk itself? What if the true purpose of pilgrimage was simply to teach the soul how to endure the slow, endless crushing weight of time? I am N.A. Hasari, and this is HISTORYULUBAY. We seek the deep truth of the past. We will walk this road not for salvation, but for history's sound. We reveal the forgotten secret, the secret of the sleepwalker, the grand tales of Geoffrey Chaucer. They are bright, they are loud, they are filled with drunken cooks and saucy wives. But the reality of the medieval pilgrimage, the real path to Canterbury, was not a lively dinner party. It was a sustained tedious of will, a hypnotic slow movement across the spine of England. We are conditioned now to speed. We are bored by 5 minutes of stillness. The medieval pilgrim was conditioned to slow suffering. The walking itself was the penance. The walking was the prayer. Day after endless day. Imagine the road. It was not smooth. It was a punishment of stone, a ribbon of gray exhaustion. You carried everything. Your water, your thin bread, your terrible fears. Daybreak was cold, cold, cold. The first steps were agony. Your muscles protesting the miles from yesterday. But you must walk. The road demands it. The slow march of devotion demands it. Listen closer than Chaucer allows. Not the jolly songs they sing about, but the heavy rhythmic thud of leather boots, the scrape of walking staffs on gravel, the low unending murmur of prayer or complaint, the constant sound of laboring breathing. This was the medieval lullaby, the true soundtrack to holiness, the profound dull sound of enduring. We follow the ancient way, from the sprawl of London town, or the quiet roads near Winchester, 30 miles a day if you were young and very strong, 20 if the rains came and the mud sucked at your shins. Always, always towards the east. Always, always towards Becket's shrine. Always, always towards Canterbury. It was a vast, slow business transaction, dressed in faith. The innkeepers grew rich. The local farmers charged too much for thin ale. It was a colossal movement of bodies, all driven by a spiritual ache and a crushing physical need to simply put Put one foot in front of the other. Put one foot in front of the other. And then we must understand the texture of the day. The light starts thin and sharp. It burns away the morning river mist. The sun climbs slowly, slowly, slowly. The air thickens with road dust. The taste of the journey is grit and sweat. You pass other pilgrims, their faces etched with the same terrible fatigue, the same slow moving hope. They are silhouettes against the endless gray horizon. They are moving shadows, moving shadows. The greatest danger was not the brigand hiding in the wood. The greatest danger was the collapse of will, the realization that this holy quest was fundamentally a simple task of covering distance, the profound power of the repetition, the monotony, the beautiful, terrifying, soul-crushing monotony. The medieval mind was trained for this slow suffering. We who live in speed cannot grasp it. We cannot feel the truth of the long, long walk. We must slow down now. We must feel the friction of the course, wool on the skin, the ache spreading from the ankle to the knee, to the hip, the repetitive landscape, the field, the copse, the river, the bridge, the field, the copse, the river, the bridge, a pattern, a hypnotic sequence designed not for excitement, but for the emptying of the mind, the emptying, the profound emptying. This is the pilgrimage. This is the walking sleep. We look closer now, beyond the flare of the amber heart, the heart of this terrible heat that fights the cold, that is always waiting. We are not just watching the fire. We are watching the shadows that hold the faces of those who walk. This walking, this pilgrimage to Canterbury. It is not a hymn sung gently in sunlight. It is a long, deep rasp of breath on cold air. Feel the air change now. The immediate blast of heat from the stacked pine. Then the insidious creeping damp that wraps around the ankles of the common man, the woman, the child. The cold is an old friend on the road. The cold is always there. It settles in the threadbare homespun wool. It clings to the leather that has known too much rain, too much mud, too much dust. They smell of wood smoke, yes, but beneath that thin cleansing layer is the truth of the journey, the smell of stale sweat that never dries, never rests, the smell of fear mixed with the sharp, sour scent of poorly cured mutton, and the deep metallic tang of unwashed sickness. This is the smell of survival. This is the scent of the road. This is the true history they forget to tell you. The history that lives in the dirt and the damp. Listen to the sounds that the fire cannot hide. The low hacking cough of the old man. The quiet, miserable sigh of the woman whose feet are already blisters. The soft, restless shifting as they try to find comfort on the unforgiving earth, the hard ground. They carry the weight of the road, yes, but much heavier, the weight of the sin that drives them forward, the sin they hope Canterbury will swallow whole, the sin they pray Christ will forgive. But forgiveness must be earned with suffering, and suffering smells like this fire circle. Look at the hands coarse raw skin cracked and darkened, clutching a small wooden cross or a beggar's bowl. These hands have worked, these hands have killed perhaps. These hands have certainly sinned. They walk not always for pure faith. No, never just for pure faith. They walk because they owe a debt, a terrible debt. They walk because the priest told them that only pain could cleanse. They walk because they are desperate to stop the plague from taking their child. They walk because they are escaping a tyrant lord. They walk because they have nowhere else to walk to. This journey is commerce as much as confession. It is transaction. It is pain traded for salvation. A terrible, terrible bargain struck in the dark of night. We sit by the fire, we feel the heat, but we see the moral gray, the shade where belief becomes obligation, where prayer is driven by panic, where the body becomes a tool for penance. They whisper secrets into the smoke, secrets of theft, secrets of envy, secrets of lust that burned hotter than this fire ever could. And the walking, the endless walking, is the price they pay. The journey demands sacrifice. It demands the breaking of the body, the chilling of the bone, the constant, unrelenting assault of the cold, the wet, the exhaustion. The shadows stretch and dance on the worn faces. Each shadow holds a sorrow. Each flicker of firelight illuminates a sin, and they will rise before dawn. They will lace their wet boots. They will shoulder the weight of their packs and their sins, and they will walk. They must walk. They must keep walking, away from the warmth of this fragile, momentary fire, out into the cold, waiting dawn, to carry the burden all the way to Canterbury, to carry the weight. The fire breathes low now, a deep orange pulse, a soft amber glow, the crackle of seasoned oak, a sound like dry whispers, like old parchment crumbling. Smell it, the scent of wet wool and burning pine resin, the air thick with wood smoke, and the heavy musk of unwashed travelers, men and women huddled close, knowing that tomorrow the warmth ends. This is the moment before the pilgrimage, the final gift of stillness, before the path demands its due. We imagine great fervor. We imagine shining faith. But look closer, look deeper, into the shadows of the sleeping hall. Ask yourself, why walk for weeks? Why endure the blistered heel, the aching hip, the unending dust, when God resides everywhere, in the breath, in the heart, in the quiet chapel? What forgotten secret does the road hold that compels the body to break, that forces the mind into endless repetition, a ritual of walking, walking, walking? This is not a swift ride to salvation. This is the pilgrimage to Canterbury, a long lullaby of measured steps, a history of pure exhaustion. The road begins not with a shout of joy, but with a tightening knot of dread. They leave the security of the town walls, stepping onto the dirt track, the way that thousands before them had trod, the way that never seemed to end. The sun rises slow, heavy, and cold, painting the chalk path white. The air bites sharp. They carry their meager belongings, a stave for balance, a bottle for water, a heart full of heavy penance. The path calls, the path demands, the earth demands tribute. With every mile, every footfall, the body submits to the monotony, the meditative cruelty of the journey. This is the legacy of boredom, the deep, quiet truth of medieval travel. It was not always an adventure. It was mostly tedium, mile after mile of trees and fields, the same smell of damp earth, the same sound of wind in the hedgerows. They walked, their minds drifting, the rhythm of the movement, a slow, hypnotic drum, a historical drone, designed not to entertain, but to empty the self, to burn away the noisy ego. The weeks blur into a single long day, a sequence of rising, eating, sleeping, and then walking. Always walking, the world shrinks to the space of their next step. The horizon is always far away, a shimmering promise that rarely draws closer. The dust settles on their cloaks, a fine gray film of history. The roads they trod still exist beneath our feet, ghost paths of dedication etched into the English countryside. What did they leave behind? Not just prayers, but a residue of human suffering, a deep unspoken understanding that true faith is tested by time, by endless repetition, by the pain that lasts, not by a single moment of grace. The mystery remains. What did they truly gain on the road? Did they find divine illumination, or just the glorious relief of sitting down, the sweet, heavy sleep of the truly exhausted, the silence of a mind worn smooth by miles? They arrived at last, their bones screaming, their spirit subdued. They knelt before the shrine of Thomas Becket, the martyr who started it all. But the real miracle happened on the dusty road, in the solitary hours, when nothing was happening at all, except the movement forward. The pilgrimage is done, the journey complete, but the road holds more secrets still, secrets hidden in the darkness between the inns. We have walked the easy miles, we have felt the cold morning air, but tomorrow we must learn about the shadows that followed them. The roads were long, but they were not empty of thieves, not empty of temptation, not empty of danger, who watched the pilgrims from the tree line, who waited for the dark to fall. Next time we stop the walk and listen for the sound of steel and the whispers of the highwaymen. The silence of the road ends now. The fire is a memory, now a whisper of warmth across the waking skin, a sound still echoing the soft, deep hush of the embers cooling. We remember the amber glow, the steady pulse of light. We remember the scent of burning pine pitch and wet leather, a heavy, sweet, comforting aroma. It was rest, it was safety, it was the blessed pause. But the road demands, the road waits for no sleeper. The chill air finds the gaps in the thick wool, finds the hollow of the neck. We are standing now, standing in the gray light of early morning, the hoarfrost still clinging stubbornly to the hedgerows. The long, long day unfolds before us, a ribbon of chalk track stretching into the inevitable distance. Look top-down look at the preparation. The leather straps, the stiffening boots, the staff grasped tight in the cold hand. This is the start of the next, the slow grind, the spiritual calculation. This pilgrimage is not about the cathedral. It is about the walking. It is about the profound, unrelenting tediousness of medieval travel. This is where the soul begins its true work, not in prayer, but in persistence. Think of the footstep economy, the countless movements required to cross a parish boundary. One step, then the drag, then the lift, then the fall. The rhythm begins low, and dull a thud, thud, thud in the heavy silence. We are thousands of steps from the next signpost, thousands of steps from the next water source, thousands of steps, thousands of steps, thousands of steps. The track is unforgiving. It is sticky. It is clay, heavy clay, that sucks at the heel. Each step must overcome the resistance of the earth, the damp, cold earth. The boots become weighted with mud, weighted with dampness, weighted with the rising fatigue. The muscles protest softly at first, then, with a grinding ache in the calves. The lower back tightens, the shoulders slump under the familiar burden of the small sack. This is the penance itself, the physical monotony. We walk in silence. Mostly, we walk within the cloud of our own breath. The noise is limited to the squelching of leather, the rhythmic sound of breathing, labored and steady. The medieval journey forces introspection, because there is simply nothing else to occupy the mind. No quick distractions, no flashing light, no sudden entertainment. Just the endless sight of the path, unwinding, the endless sight of the feet, moving. The feet, the focus always returns to the feet. Are they rubbing? Are they blistering? Are they cold? We try to find a rhythm, a syncopated pace that requires less conscious effort, a hypnosis of movement, a gentle lullaby sung by the gait. But the body resists. The body reminds you that you are carrying the weight of centuries, the weight of your own belief. The low clouds press down, the landscape feels compressed, small, and immediate. We see only the hedge, the ditch, the back of the pilgrim, directly ahead. They are moving too slowly, always too slowly. But we cannot pass. We must remain in the line, the moving silent line. The goal is not speed. The goal is endurance. The goal is the slow, deliberate sacrifice of the comfortable hour. Hour after hour, we measure distance not in miles, but in pain. The walking becomes a meditation, a profound emptying of thought. The brain focuses on the simple survival of the next moment, the next minute, the next 100 steps. A medieval pilgrimage was weeks of this, weeks of discomfort, weeks of damp. It was the willingness to submit to the small sufferings, the small aches, the small hunger. This relentless hypnotic motion is what truly earned the blessing of Canterbury. This is the journey. This is the cost. This is the cold road demanding the next step, and the next step, and the next step. The fire breathes a low, sighing pulse in the deep night air. It is the heart of the journey now, not the bustling tavern, not the proud start, but the slow, slow gnawing of the wood and the soul. It is the hour of damp wool, the time the cold finds the marrow. The cold is a predator, a patient wolf, circling the weak amber glow. It searches for the places the heat does not reach, the backs of the knees, the small space beneath the chin. We are bound by this fire, these weary travelers, these desperate souls. We smell of stale wood smoke, of sweat dried crusty onto rough spun cloth. We smell of the road itself, of wet earth and dust, and the sharp metallic tang of old fear. Listen now, not to the sermons preached in sunlit aisles, but to the sound of men coughing into their fists. A wet, rattling sound, the pilgrimage claiming its first tithes. This is the true tax of the holy walk. The blistered heel, the rasping breath, the stiffness that sets in the moment you dare to rest. We walk to save ourselves, to trade this earthly misery for some imagined celestial peace. But what did we leave behind? What small sins did we commit just to make it here? We trade the sin of pride for the sin of hunger. We trade the sin of envy for the sin of resentment. Watching the merchant sleep, soundly wrapped in fox fur, while the peasant shivers beneath a single threadbare blanket. The fire knows the difference. The fire sees the secret prayers, the whispered curse against the neighbor who carries a fatter sack. We say we walk for Thomas. We say we walk for grace. But sometimes we walk only because turning back is more shameful than walking forward. The moral gray is the dust on our boots. It settles on everything we touch, everything we think. Did you step over the old woman sleeping in the rain earlier today? Did you pretend not to hear the child begging for a scrap of dried fish? The road demands selfishness. The road demands you save your own energy, your own small store of bread. Salvation feels far away tonight, a high distant star, obscured by the constant smoke. We are all broken. We carry the burdens we hope to shed. The wealthy man carries the weight of his guilt over usury. The farmer carries the weight of the harvest he knows he abandoned. The pilgrim carries the deep knowledge of hypocrisy. We are not saints yet. We are simply tired. So tired the line between prayer and delirium begins to blur. The fire shifts, a crackle, a momentary flare of light. It reminds us of the constant danger, of bandits of fever, of the swift, cruel justice of the medieval road. The fear is a slow burn inside the belly. It keeps the sleep light, a thin veil across the mind. We listen to the rhythm of the breathing, 100 lungs laboring in unison. We listen for the telltale sounds of distress, the sudden gasp, the quiet weeping, the turning over of a sick body. The stench of poverty is thick tonight, a heavy blanket woven from dampness and decay. This is the cost of weeks upon weeks. This is the penance paid in the cold, dark hours. We pay with our bodies. We pay with our integrity. We pay until there is nothing left but the faint hope, the desperate hope that Canterbury is were. The awful trade. The fire watches us. The fire keeps the tally. burns and burns, and burns the history into our bones. The earth has swallowed the dust of 1,000 footsteps. The sound of the final mile is silence, a silence earned through blistered heels and aching calves, a silence that tastes of iron and salt and the scent of damp wool. The path dissolves not in a sudden glory, but in a slow unwinding of muscle and mind. The long, slow road, the long, slow road. We walked for weeks through the amber glow of twilight. We slept beneath the whispering canopy of old oaks. We rose before the first gray light could spill across the dew-drenched fields. The pilgrimage was not a sprint to salvation. It was the slow, deliberate grinding away of the self. Each grain of gravel absorbed a worry. Each rise and fall of the track took away a small sin. The body became a vessel, emptying. This is the legacy of the pilgrim, not the destination, but the absolute surrender to the tedious, slow truth of the journey. The road remains. When the pilgrims returned home, or when they lay down for their final sleep on hallowed ground, the road itself did not vanish. The stones remember. The soil remembers. The ancient maps remember the winding lines of faith. The economy of belief was built on this sustained discomfort. Inns sprang up where there was desperate need. Chapels rose where shadows fell long and cold. The language changed. The laws shifted, but the path endured. A slow ribbon of human intent stretching back centuries. A living, breathing archive of pain and prayer. The mystery deepens when we leave the dirt track and enter the great cold echoing stone. Canterbury. It stands now before us, a massive breathing monument. But the true mystery is not in the height of the spire or the resonance of the bell. It is in what was left behind and what was taken. Thomas Becket's legacy is a legacy of blood and fire. His murder solidified the power of the walking faithful. His tomb became the magnet, the anchor of this ancient journey. But what of the holy things he left? What of the relics, the fragments of bone, the soaked cloth, the objects touched by sacred tragedy? They were guarded. They were displayed. They drew pilgrims like iron filings to a magnet for centuries. But the weight of history is heavy, and history is not always careful with its treasures. Where did the truly powerful things go? The inventory scrolls speak of unimaginable wealth. Silver caskets, gold plating, jewels that held the light of 1,000 burning candles. But the most potent objects were merely human remains, the silent testimony of martyrdom. When the winds of change swept through the great churches, when the monasteries were dissolved and the altars were torn down, what became of the sacred center? The stones were scattered, the glass was broken, but the relics, the potent physical proof of faith, they did not simply evaporate. They were hidden, they were moved, they were scattered like seeds on the wind, carried by those who valued memory more than gold. This is the ghost in the archive, the legacy of the long, slow walk led us to a vault of silence. We know where the Pilgrims arrived. We know why they came. But the mystery of what they saw in those final moments, the absolute tangible proof of the saint, that vanished. It vanished into the shadows, into the strong boxes of the faithful, into the hands of those who swore a secret oath, and the records of that oath, the map of that hidden scattering. They too were lost, or perhaps they were only misplaced. Perhaps they were merely waiting for the quiet, slow movement of history to reveal a single fragile, forgotten scrap of parchment, a scrap of parchment detailing the fate, the final resting place of the most cherished relics of Canterbury, a map to the bones. Next time on HISTORY, we dig into the dusty, dry records. We follow the whisper of a missing inventory list. We hunt for the silent scroll that holds the secret, a single piece of paper hidden for 500 years. We follow the paper. We follow the secret. We follow the ghosts of the great lost relics. Stay slow. Stay walking. Stay listening. It begins not with the path, but the memory of the night before the cold path. The fire crackled low and deep, a sound, a pure sound, the scent of burning pine, thick and sweet, amber glow resting on the palms. Heat, 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 a fierce blessing. We huddled close, the faces drawn in shadow. The light danced on the wood grain, the dying wood grain. A fleeting comfort, a fleeting release. Now the path is frozen mud, and the sun is weak. The light is gone. The warmth is a ghost against the skin. We walk, but tell me, this deep traveler, tell me, this forgotten secret. Was the fire the true destination, or was the true terror the silence that followed the fire? The silence, the endless silence that demanded the body surrender to the mile, back to the endless mile. This is 3. The novelty is dead. The feet are not just tired now, they are alien things. They betray you. We press on toward Canterbury, toward the holy bones of Becket. But the bones of our own feet feel closer, closer and more immediate than any saintly relic. Imagine the weight of the wool, wet, heavy clinging, the smell of damp earth and unwashed sweat, the constant presence of the staff, a third leg, a necessary crutch, the only friend in the landscape. Tap, 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 the rhythm of devotion. The road is not a road. It is simply a depression in the landscape, worn by the centuries of those hopping to shed a sin, hopping to earn a single moment of grace, a grace that feels impossibly far away. The world shrinks now. It is reduced to the 6 feet in front of you, and the breath, just the breath, in and out, in and out. The mind seeks distraction. It finds only the mantra of the march, the endless loop of stone and gravel, stone and gravel, stone and gravel. The pilgrim's greatest battle is not the bandit, nor the harsh innkeeper. The greatest battle is the slow, creeping monotony, the soul-testing drone of repetition. Day after day, the same small details, the script The small pouch of provisions is often empty now. The bread is hard, the water is cold, and the hunger is a dull, constant ache. We are far from London now, far from the structured world of markets and bells. We are in the forgotten places, where the peasant watches us pass, a moving line of misery, a moving line of faith. Faith, faith, faith. It must be more than hope now. It must be an internal engine, a machine fueled by ancient guilt and the promise of celestial relief. Look closely at the face of the man ahead. His eyes are downcast. They are fixed on the ground, but they are not seeing the mud. They are seeing the memory of the fire. The memory of the fire. The memory of the fire that warmed his palms, and the promise of the cathedral's light that will one day warm his soul. We follow the ancient tracks, the track of those who walked and stumbled, the track of those who stopped and died. Their ghosts are the cold air we breathe. Their failures are the caution we carry, the discipline of the medieval journey. It was not about comfort. It was about denial. Denial of the body's demands. Denial of the world's fleeting pleasures. Every step is a prayer. Every blister is a penance. Every freezing morning is an offering. The earth takes us. The earth takes us, and we let it take us toward the silence of the shrine, toward the silence, where the walking finally stops and the true journey begins. The fire breathes, a slow, heavy breath, amber light crawling over rough wool, a patch of warmth against the endless cold. The cold is the true pilgrim master. It judges every step. It punishes every pause. It seeps into the joint. It settles in the marrow. It is the bitter truth we carry. It is the damp that will not dry. We walk for weeks. We walk for weeks. Our prayer is constant, not spoken, but etched upon the arch of the foot. The tendon screams, the skin breaks. The leather chafes, the blisters bloom. A garden of agony. We are here by the dying pine smoke, and the scent is not holy. It is the scent of wood and damp earth, and 3 days' sweat, of unwashed linen, of stale bread gnawed quickly. The cost is the body. The cost is the breath. Look closely at the faces, illumined by the slow flame. They are not saints yet. They are tired souls. Some seek salvation truly, a deep unburdening. Others walk a promise forced, a debt paid reluctantly, a bribe offered to the heavens, a cheap insurance policy. Against the dark, the moral gray is everywhere. It clings like the wet fog. Did the miller share his portion, or did he hoard the last dry crust? He prayed loud at matins, but did he curse the dying farmer who asked for water on the road? He carries the holy scallop shell, but his heart holds grudges still. The road promises purity. The road delivers only exhaustion, and exhaustion strips the mask away. It shows the petty theft of kindness, the hurried prayer said without meaning, the silent judgment of the slower walker. It is not just about relics waiting. It is out the slow burning revelation of what we truly are when everything hurts, when the rain never stops, when the charity of strangers runs dry. We crave the warmth of the Lord, but we steal the warmth of the neighbor, huddling too close to the meager fire. The temptation is constant. The desire for comfort is louder than the murmur of the paternoster. The logs crackle low now. The rhythm is slow and deep, a heavy blanket of sound to lull the doubt, to silence the ache, to forget the distance, still to cover. To Canterbury, to Canterbury, we walk a medieval sleepwalk, a trance of mud and prayer. Our shoes are heavy with the soil of shame and the dust of hope. They tell us to surrender the burden, but the burden is our own body. The burden is the weakness we conceal. The burden is the sin we whisper at night. Listen to the breathing around you. It is ragged and uneven. It is the sound of flesh failing slowly. Failing slowly. The breath catches on the damp air. A cough deep from the lungs. A cold that roots itself, that takes hold and will not let go. We seek the miracle of healing, but the journey itself is the disease. It grinds us down. It cleanses through suffering. It makes us hate the sound of our own boots. And yet we must keep walking. We must keep walking, for the sun will rise, and the road waits once more. The endless, tedious journey, the walking dream. We leave the dust of the road now. We leave the tedious track behind. We arrive at the silent stone, the heavy ancient stone of Canterbury. It stands defiant against the slow slide of time. It holds the millions of footsteps we never hear, the whispered prayers, the sudden coughs, the weight of the world carried for weeks, carried and then deposited here, in this cool vault, in this echoing nave. Look closely at the carved angels. They do not smile, they only wait. They watch the amber light shift slowly. They remember the scent of desperation, the scent of salvation achieved or imagined. But the stones tell only half the tale. The deeper story is the secret kept, the secret the weary traveler carries home. What did the pilgrim truly seek in this place? More than forgiveness, more than penance. Was it a silence they could not find elsewhere? A deep permission to simply stop walking for a single breath? Did they find it? Did they find the solace? Did they find the holy peace they craved? Did they find the answer to the haunting question? The question that drove them from their warm fires, driven by fear, driven by fierce hope. The mystery remains, folded within the records, unreadable, unspoken. We know the roots, we know the costs. We know the royal decrees and the endless tolls, but we do not know the silence of the soul, the slow, heavy silence that descends in the crypt. Did they find it? Did they find the thing that was missing? The thing they left behind in the mud of the morning, the mud of the endless morning. Canterbury is a monument to belief, but every monument casts a shadow, a long, slow shadow across the meadow. What happens to the stories too small to be written? The stories of the lost, coins the broken shoes, the tiny moments of doubt that flicker and die, the the relics that disappeared into the vast archive. We talk of Becket's skull, the glorious jewels, but what of the humble forgotten things? The simple wooden staff, left leaning against a cold, forgotten wall. Where did the faith go when the crowds dispersed? When the slow walk home began, did the magic linger? Did the blessing hold? Or did it fade like breath on a winter glass? This history is thick with official pronouncements, thick with the gold and the stained glass colors. But beneath the surface, a deeper current flows, a current of simple, weary endurance. Endurance and the slow, steady drip of doubt. The doubt that keeps the mystery alive. The doubt that we ourselves carry now. The legacy is not just the stone structure. It is the memory of the sheer effort, the sheer physical labor of faith. A labor measured in blisters and aching joints. A labor measured in the slow movement across the map. A labor that changed the landscape forever. The Pilgrims' Way became the spine of England. It dictated where the settlements grew. It dictated where the bridges were built. It dictated where the weary money was spent. The map of medieval England is a map of prayer. A map drawn not in ink, but in footsteps. Footsteps, footsteps, footsteps. The stone offers its comfort, its finality. But we cannot stay here in the quiet reverence. The road calls us back. The dark road whispers. We must return to the journey itself. Back to the grinding hardship of the walk. Back to the weeks of aching muscle. The empty stomach, the freezing rain. Next time, we leave the high vaulted ceilings. We walk toward the deep wood, toward the shelter, toward the dark, terrifying safety of the medieval inn. The inn that promised rest, but often brought ruin. What happened in that dim, flickering light? What secrets were shared over that thin, bitter wine? What shadows slept beside the pilgrim? The shadows that followed them all the way home. We peer into the darkness of the roadhouse fire, the stench of unwashed bodies, the sudden cold knife. The danger of the journey was not divine wrath. The true danger was always the man beside you, the pilgrim or the thief or the hungry shad. We open the door to the medieval night next time and listen for the sounds they never wrote down. The sound of fear, the sound of survival. We walk now, but remember the night before. The shelter built of branches. The fire we made. A desperate orange heart. In the smothering black air. Hear the small sound. The crackling wood. The hiss of sap escaping. See the smoke drift low. A thick scent of burning pine. And damp wool. It was safety, it was life. It was the only warmth. The only light that mattered. The heat soaked into the shivering bones. The amber glow kissed the weary faces. We begged the fire not to die, not to fade into the cold, cold dark. Now look away from the comforting flame. Look at the road ahead. The mud, the flint, the stone. The endless road to Canterbury. Weeks long, did the pilgrims fear the highwaymen? Did they fear the biting, cold, the driving rain? The lack of bread? No, they feared the quiet. They feared the moment they stopped moving. They feared the unbearable stillness. That is the forgotten secret of the long walk. The pilgrimage was a race against the self, a desperate of keeping the blood rushing. The road devours the mile devours the foot. We take the steps, one step, and then the next step, and then the next step. The heavy cloth is wet. The leather boots are stiff. The weight of the scrip bag, the weight of the sins, they are carried on the shoulder. They are carried in the small arch of the foot. The flint cuts the sole. The mud holds the boot fast. Release and pull. Release and pull. We are no longer masters of our bodies. We are servants to the rhythm, the simple sound of breathing, the simple sound of the tread. We walk for hours. We walk for days. We walk because the walking is the penance. The walking is the prayer. The body praying in silence. The foot kneeling on the stone, repeating the ancient repetition. Step, 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 step. The journey breaks the mind slowly. It breaks the spirit slowly, but it builds the endurance endlessly. We are far past the initial enthusiasm of hope. We are deep into the mundane, the gray monotony of the road, the sameness of the sky, the scent of stale sweat and wet leather. The hours stretch out like thin cold thread. We talk of nothing important. We speak of food and water. We speak of the pain in the lower back, the blister that has burst and reformed. Look at the faces passing, the merchant looking for profit, the pauper looking for bread, the nobleman looking for status. They march side by side, all seeking something they cannot name, all seeking something they cannot truly find. Are they seeking God, or are they seeking an escape from the harvest? Are they seeking forgiveness, or are they seeking license for the next sin to come? The path demands honesty. The path demands everything. But the mind is a liar. The mind says rest. The body says keep moving. Keep moving, keep moving. The endless horizon draws us. A slow magnetic pull. Canterbury is a myth. A shimmering sound on the cold wind. A distant golden spire. We seek Thomas Becket's holy bones. We seek the promise of his sacred blood. But the true offering is made here, in the dirt beneath the nail, in the grit between the teeth. The exhaustion is the offering. The exhaustion is the only reward. We walk through the long gray light. We keep walking now. We must walk until the walking is the only existence left. The path accepts the lie. The path accepts the sinner. It only demands the relentless step. We keep moving. We keep moving toward that distant place. Canterbury waits, but we must walk. We must walk until the memory of the fire is the only thing that keeps us moving. The journey continues. The fire breathes low, a red mouth chewing oak bark, a necessary violence against the night. We watch the embers shift, the slow, mesmerizing dance of ash, the heart of our low and walking world, the only true warmth left in England. Feel the cold now, the damp chill that sinks deeper than skin, a cold that whispers of the grave, a cold that medieval wood and wool cannot fully defeat. It finds the knees, it finds the lungs, it settles in the bones and waits. Listen close to the darkness, beyond the flickering light. There is a sound of constant, restless movement, not just the wind, but the tired turning of bodies, the sound of deep fatigue, the sound of a pilgrimage measured in muscle ache. Hear the cough now, a wet rasping sound from the back of the throat, a chest full of damp air, and days of sleeping on straw. The body rebels against the soul's ambition. The air we breathe here, it is thick not only with the scent of pine smoke, but with the truth of the journey, the brutal honesty of the walking. Smell the wool saturated by river mist. Smell the rancid oil that protected the leather boots. Smell the faint, sickly sweetness of sickness and old sweat, the odor of human beings, weeks away from water and soap. They carry the road on their clothes. They carry the earth's grime in their fingernails. This is the hidden cost, the price of redemption, measured not in shillings, but in blisters, and the permanent ache in the small of the back, the endless, endless walking. We look at the faces, illuminated by the fire, faces etched by hunger and doubt. They came seeking holiness, but what did they bring with them? Look at the wealthy merchant, the one who keeps his hand near his purse. Did he walk this road for divine grace? Or was it for public penance, a performance of piety meant to erase a lifetime of sharp dealings? He needs the indulgence, he craves the forgiveness, but he also needs the reputation. He needs the world to see him suffer. He needs the world to see him walk, walk, walk. And look at the ragged woman, her cloak patched too many times. Her motive is far quieter. She walks for a son lost to fever. She walks for a shame that cannot be spoken. She walks because she believes the simple friction of the miles, the sheer pain of the journey, will somehow balance the ledger, will make the burden lighter. The moral gray is as deep as the black shadow on the road. Who among them is truly devout? Who among them is simply running away? Who believes the story of St. Thomas? Who just needs a place to sleep tonight? The fire does not judge. The fire only gives warmth. We share the same cold ground. We share the same bitter smoke in our eyes. We share the common human need to believe that suffering means something. The pilgrimage is the suffering. The pilgrimage is the endless repetition. The sound of the bell tolling slowly. The sound of the worn feet hitting the dirt track. Walk, walk, walk. Endure, endure, endure. Believe, believe, believe. The fire begins to die down now. The light shrinks. The vastness of the medieval night presses in closer. The cold reminds us of its waiting patience. The silence descends, broken only by the crackle of a final ember and the quiet, heavy breathing of those who must rise before dawn and start the walking. All over the echo remains, long after the boots have quieted, long after the dust has settled on the worn woolen cloak. The pilgrimage itself becomes a ghost story, a lingering scent of wet earth and old wax, is the enduring, quiet legacy? The Canterbury Road swallowed thousands of lives, swallowed their sins and their small savings. It gave them back something heavier, something stranger, a memory forged in exhaustion, a faith bought with the painful friction of walking. Walking, walking, walking. Think of the silence now, the ancient stones of the cathedral. They remember the desperate cough. They remember the sudden collapse, the sweet relief of reaching the shrine of the sacred bones. The weight lifted, the burden released. But what was the release, really? Was it the miracle they sought, or simply the profound relief of stopping of walking itself? The journey was the penitence. The journey was the pardon. The walk, the waiting, the walk, the witness. Look closely now at the relic, the amber glow of the preserved fragment, the polished silver housing the supposed finger bone. Centuries of candlelight have kissed that metal. Centuries of desperate tears have washed the stone. We know that the medieval world loved a good fraud. We know that piety often masked profit. We know that skepticism was dangerous. Then, a whisper in the dark, a doubt too deep to share. Is the true legacy of the pilgrimage the certainty of the holy object, or is it the incredible human capacity for purposeful self-deception, the deep need to believe that a sliver of wood or a scrap of cloth could hold the power to mend a broken soul? The walk made the lie acceptable. The effort made the truth unnecessary. The long, tedious walk to Canterbury. It was not about the destination. It was about the transformation that occurred mile after agonizing mile. The transformation of the tired body into a vessel of grace. The feet blistered the spirit soaring. The world simplified to the rhythm of the step, the breath, the prayer. The medieval pilgrim found his meaning. He carried his past on his back and buried it deep in the Kentish clay. He returned home lighter. But what remains for us, the modern soul? We trace those steps in the mind's eye. We seek that same profound weariness that allows the noise of life to simply stop. The path disappears now beneath fields of modern harvest, beneath the roar of the mechanical world. But the deep groove of belief remains. It is a scar on the English landscape, a whisper in the winding river, Medway. The legacy is the walking, the simple of putting one foot in front of the other, until the world breaks down and only hope remains. We close the chronicle of the faithful. We close on the celebrated journey. But the long road holds secrets beyond the blessed and the whole. What of the ones who left the path? The desperate souls driven by madness or crime. The outcasts banished to the edge of the known world. The ones whose pilgrimage was not salvation, but execution. The ones who hid in the shadow of the cathedral wall. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Next we descend into the dark history of banishment. We search the woods for the forgotten criminals, the curse of the broken vow, the pilgrim who died alone, who waited for them in the long cold night. We remember the fire, always the fire, the quiet breathing of the burning things, the scent of dry cedar smoke clinging to the wool, a gentle amber, light against the vast night cold. Listen closely now to the sound, the crackle. The wood settles deep, the red embers pulse. This soft light, this momentary safety. But out there, beyond the circle of warmth, lay the road, the unending Kentish road. The mud dried yesterday is now fresh wetted by the morning mist, the promise of rain. This is 5 Pilgrims. We have been walking for days now. The initial zeal, the frantic excitement, is gone. It is replaced by a slow rhythm, a hypnotic slow rhythm. Did they truly seek salvation in Canterbury? Or did they truly seek the sheer grinding repetition, the slow hypnosis of moving forward, forever moving, forever shifting weight? We are not talking about a spiritual sprint. This is a spiritual maintenance program. Week after week, the horizon does not chain. The landscape shifts slightly. The ache does not. Feel the weight of the water skin, the wet leather chafing the hip, the coarse tunic against the neck. Feel the boots, the heavy, inevitable boots. They were not designed for comfort. They were designed for endurance, for surviving the endless friction. The sound they make is the soundtrack to salvation. Thud drag, thud drag, thud drag. We walk, we simply walk. We surrender to the feet. The feet become the mind's master, dictating the pace, dictating the thought. The path narrows through the coppice wood. The branches scrape the hood. The air smells perpetually of damp earth and wood smoke and unwashed bodies. Think of the medieval mind now, stripped bare by the walking. How much of the journey was silent prayer, and how much was just counting the steps. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. We forget the sheer, unbearable boredom, the tedium that was the crucible. It was the mind's furnace, not the fire, burning away the anxieties of the village, burning away the small debts, burning away the petty grudges. The road demands total presence. You cannot walk and plan your harvest. You can only walk and manage the pain. The blisters, they teach patience. The slow seep of blood into the sock. A tiny sacrifice paid daily. Paid not to God, but to the road itself. The road accepts everything. The road judges nothing. It simply lies there gray and wet. And the rhythm returns, always the rhythm. The sound of the staves tapping the ground. The low murmur of the prayers, or the complaints. They blur into one unified hum, a deep, low, meditative drone. Imagine the sound, now the sound, of 30 people walking in unison, their breath shallow, their eyes low, focusing only on the boot ahead, the shadow of the pilgrim ahead. We carry the dirt of 5 counties now, beneath our nails, in the weave of our cloak. We smell like the road. We look like the road. We are becoming the road, slowly, silently, inevitably. And as the sun begins its long, slow descent, casting shadows that stretch and warp, we begin the search for the night's rest. A cheap hospice, a communal barn, a simple ditch, if the weather is kind. The final steps of the day are the hardest steps. The muscles tighten, protesting the journey, but the the mind finds a peculiar peace, the peace of having survived one more day, one more mile closer to Becket. Remember the repetition, remember the simplicity of the medieval journey. It is not about the grand moment. It is about the thousands of tiny moments of lifting the foot, then placing the foot, and then we settle in now for the evening's cold. The scent of burning pine returns, but the gentle ache remains deep in the calf, a promise that tomorrow we will rise, and we will simply walk step after quiet pilgrim step. The cold returns always, always. It licks the edges of the flame. We sit close, shoulders hunched against the night. The pine smoke is thick, a blessing and a curse. It masks the deep, damp chill that settles in the bone. Listen to the wood, sighing a soft surrender. The crackling tells a story older than Canterbury, a story of survival, of hunger, of road grit. The heat kisses the face only, leaving the backs exposed to the black air, a constant reminder of the journey's duality, warmth and immediate peril, warmth and immediate peril. We are pilgrims, yes, we are seekers, but first we are bodies, broken vessels, full of aches and demands. The skin is tight from the drying heat, but just past the skin, the muscle knots hard, a tension that never leaves, never truly rests, even when sleep attempts its thin, delicate approach. Think of the moral gray, think of the compromises, made simply to put one heavy foot before the other. The holy road demands coin, and coin was hard to keep and harder still to earn. We walk for salvation, they say, but salvation is expensive when the belly is empty and the lodging master's eye is sharp and assessing. Did we take, did we beg, did we lie to reach this amber glow tonight? The farmer loses a measure of oats. The village girl loses a cheap trinket. Small sins, small trespasses that build a great wall, a wall of necessary cruelties against the brutal indifference of the medieval earth. We call it penance, this walking, but sometimes it feels like a transaction, a debt paid in exhaustion and filth. The stench is the truest truth of the path. Beneath the pine, the scent of road, the scent of days, unwashed wool and sour sweat, the rot of cloth, the rot of leather, the lingering decay of old wounds, never properly healed. The feet are silent screamers inside the boots. They carry the soul, but they drag the body. They walk the way of the cross, but they feel the pain of the market thief. The wind outside the small fire circle, it whistles secrets about our true intentions. Is it faith or is it flight? Is it devotion or simple fear of the stagnant life left behind? Listen deeper now, past the gentle hiss of steam, the sound of wet earth turning to mud beneath the tread, the sound of coughing, the deep, desperate cough that shakes the ribs, the sound of doubt whispering in the small hours, a gnawing sound like mice in the dry straw. Did the sacrifice matter? Will the saint hear this distant, ragged prayer? The fire is our only witness now. It watches our faces etched with hardship, faces that betray the purity of the supposed quest, eyes that have seen too much dust and too much poverty, eyes that understand the cost of every single mile, the cost of asking for hospitality when you have nothing, the shame of accepting the thin, meager kindnesses. The path is long, the path is very long. It stretches back into the dark woods we left, and forward into the fog of the unknown tomorrow. We crave the rest, we crave the forgetting, to melt into the amber glow, and forget the mud and the cold, forget the nagging guilt of survival. Survival that always asks for too much. Watch the amber heart of the flame. It breathes slow, it breathes steady. It is a temporary god, a momentary shelter. The heat sinks into the aching spine, but soon, the fire will fall into itself. A final slow surrender, and the cold will return its rightful owner. The cold returns always, always, and the endless walking starts the fire, whispers now, a low, slow breath. The great journey is finished, and the road is silent now. The heavy pack dropped to the cold stone floor. The rough wool cloak draped over the wooden chair. The body aches with a deep and perfect exhaustion. The feet remember every league, every sharp flint stone. They remember the scent of rain and wet earth and frozen pine. They remember the endless repetition of the step. The step, the step, the step. And now there is only stillness, a vast stillness that swallows the memory of the wind. We came to Canterbury for Thomas, for the miracle of the martyr's bones. But the true legacy of the pilgrimage is not the saint. It is the silence that follows the arrival. The bells toll deep and slow, deep and slow. But the question lingers long after the walking stops. What did we carry home besides a scallop shell? What unseen cargo did the soul collect along the way? Was it absolution or only further doubt? The stone floor of the cathedral is cold and immense. We walked thousands of steps for a story that happened in 1170, a moment of violence that changed the entire map of belief. But the history of the pilgrimage is not the history of kings and bishops. It is the history of the desperate prayer, whispered into the dark. We talk of the official route, of the official miracles. But what of the pilgrim who slipped away from the group? The one who walked alone, the one who carried the shame, the one whose only hope was the rhythm of the road itself, a road that offered pain as a substitute for penance. The stones of Canterbury hold the energy of those untold burdens, a million untold fears pressed into the mortar, a million small hopes flickering like a hidden lamp. The wealth of the pilgrimage grew vast beyond imagining. It was not just faith that traveled the roads. It was gold, it was power, it was influence. It was the very engine of the medieval economy, turning slowly, turning on the hinge of a dead archbishop's bones. The walk was the price, the relic was the payoff. But the payoff came with its own shadow, its own terrible cost. We have reached the end of the physical map. We have arrived where all the lines converge. But the mystery never truly ends at the destination. It begins anew when the crowd disperses and the lights go out great silence of the sanctuary is hiding something vast. The medieval world was built on faith, but every great structure needs heavy foundations. And sometimes those foundations hide secrets, secrets of fabrication, secrets of commerce, secrets of the hidden trade. The reverence for the sacred object grew immense. The relics were priceless. They were infinite. They were the proof of heaven itself. And where limitless value meets human hands, a dark current begins to flow, a current of deceit, a current of profound historical fraud. The story they tell you in the history books is about faith sustained. The shadow story whispered under the breath is about faith exploited. We sleep now wrapped in the heavy mystery of the legacy. But when we wake, the road takes a new, unexpected turn. We turn the relic over in our hands and examine the hidden stamp. Next time, we must ask the forbidden question, a question that could shake the very stone of the great cathedral. Were the bones really the bones? Or was the entire journey built on a carefully constructed, magnificent lie? Sleep now, and let the silent shadows carry you until we face the truth of the fraud. The fire crackles low, crackles slow, a bitter smoke rising into the midnight air. The cold seeped deep into the wool. The cold seeped deep into the bone. We watched the amber teeth of the flames biting the night, biting the shifting blackness. The only warmth, the only anchor, the only proof we were still men and not merely shadows. But here is the forgotten secret of the road, the secret they did not carve into the stained glass. We were not afraid of the thieves or the sudden storm. We were afraid of the silence that let us hear the true cost of our steps. The cost whispered only when the world fell utterly quiet. Back to the endless mile, the path to Canterbury, where tedium becomes devotion. The road is dust and dry stone. The road is repetition and relentless sun. It is the business of lifting the foot and replacing the foot, thousands of times, 10,000s of times, an engine of aching muscle and desperate faith. We walk, we do nothing but walk, the scrip heavy across the shoulder, the weight of the bread and the flask, the weight of the sins, the terrible invisible weight. Listen closely to the sound of this pilgrimage. It is not the sound of chanting hymns. It is the sound of leather rubbing leather. Ard, the soft grinding sound of dry earth beneath worn soles, the breath catching tight in the throat, that rhythm, that hypnotic rhythm of suffering. We began as merchants, as farmers, as priests. We began with names and with titles, but the road strips them away. The road wants only the walker, the carrier, the vessel of dirt. The days merge into a smear of brown and gray. Another day of the straight line, another day of the slow ascent, another day when the horizon refuses to shift. It is the same view, the same dusty hedge, the same oppressive sky. We measure time not by the chiming of bells, but by the number of blisters that bloom on the heel, the number of prayers whispered against the rising heat. We pass through villages small and mean, villages that offer sour beer and hard straw. We are guests, we are intruders, we are walking penitents. They look at us with fear. They look at us with envy. They know that we carry a purpose, a crushing purpose they cannot understand. The feet swell and burn. The tendons scream their complaint. This is the true penance of the medieval journey. Not the grand spiritual ecstasy, but the grinding physical reality. The body must be broken down to be rebuilt. The body must be taught submission, taught that it is merely a temporary cave. Imagine the landscape. Imagine the slow crawl, mile after mile of low rolling hills, the scent of damp wool and unwashed bodies, the constant drone of flies following the march. You are tired, you are hungry, you are thirsty. But more than that, you are diminished. You are reduced to the pure essence of movement. You carry the memory of the fire, that brief moment of safety, that brief moment of shared warmth. But the morning returns, and the cold returns, and the necessity of the road returns. We repeat the promises, we repeat the prayers, the Hail Mary, the Lord's Prayer, over and over a mantra against the madness of the distance. The repetition acts like a spiritual poultice. It soothes the mind, even as the body protests. We seek the bones of Thomas Becket. We seek the miracle that will justify this pain. But the true miracle happens every evening when the sun finally dips below the field edge and we find the strength to lift the heavy pack one more time, and we find the courage to face the rising chill, and we find the ability to hope for dawn. We are walking evidence of faith, a slow-moving column of ache and desire. And every evening, when the fire begins to crackle, when the amber teeth begin their work, we remember the silence, and we remember why we keep walking. We keep walking because the end is everything. The end is the cleansing, the absolving dust of Canterbury. The fire sinks now, lowering its voice. A hush descends upon the shelter, a heavy woolen silence. We watch the coals deepen, an amber universe collapsing inward, the smell of burning pine. It clings to the wet wool. It masks the smell of stale bodies, of unwashed linen and fear. We are here by the grace of exhaustion, not holiness. Exhaustion is the true saint of this road. It forces us to surrender. It forces us to stop walking for weeks. Walking for weeks, walking for weeks. The cold is not outside tonight. The cold lives inside the bone. It sits deep in the marrow, a constant, demanding passenger. The heat on our faces is a cruel deception, because the cold grips the spine still. It clutches the ankles, reminding us of the mud we crossed, the endless mud, the endless rain. This journey they call pilgrimage, a cleansing of the soul. But what of the cost of the body? What of the human cost? The gray cost? Look at the figures slumped around the edges, their breathing rough and strained, their hands scarred by the constant pull of the staff, the weight of the pack. They are not saints yet. They are mostly thieves and opportunists. They carry their prayers like weights, and they carry their grudges like knives. We think of the holy city, but we live in the desperation of the night. We judge the man who snored too loudly. We begrudge the woman who took the driest spot. The path to Canterbury is paved, not with virtue, but with 1,000 tiny resentments, 1,000 small selfish victories, a whispered complaint about the thinness of the bread, a stolen crust hidden beneath a cloak. This is the hidden truth of the long road. The tedium strips away the nobility. The hunger strips away the kindness. Walking for weeks, the soul promises glory. The body demands survival. And where does the line fall? Between necessary sin and mortal fault. When your feet are bleeding, when your child coughs endlessly beside you, the moral map of the pilgrim is stained with uncertainty. It is mudded by hunger. It is darkened by envy. We are walking for forgiveness, but we are committing small acts of cruelty every mile. The sensory world does not forgive. The air tastes of wood smoke and damp fear. The sounds are the wet coughs, the grinding of teeth, an uneasy sleep. The fire crackles, a quiet testimony. It watches the shadows dance. It sees the expressions that cross the sleeping faces, the expressions of private pain, of unforgiven wrongs. The pilgrimage is not just about the destination. It is about the intimate acquaintance with our own limits, with the small capacity for evil that sleeps just beneath the skin. The cold grips harder now. The darkness presses in from the forest, and the embers pulse slowly revealing the tedious truth. We are not heroes of faith. We are merely people walking for weeks. People walking for weeks, desperate and tired and utterly human. The fire knows the secrets. The fire knows the weariness. It watches us rest, and it waits for us to rise, to face the inevitable pain of tomorrow. The road demands more, always more walking, more cold, more grayness, before the bells of Canterbury can be heard, if they are ever heard at all. The fire is cold now. The embers breathe quiet dust. A final hush falls over the chronicles, the last light fading on the tapestry of the conqueror, of the silent king. We spoke of walls built strong, of laws laid down like heavy stone, of a legacy meant to stretch into eternity and beyond. But the walls crumble, the stone wears thin. The legacy we see is not the one they intended to leave behind. It is the echo, the whisper beneath the moss, the sound of a name said softly in a dark cathedral long ago. Listen closely now. The map is finished. The borders are drawn, but the most crucial territory remains blank, remains unseen. The king left everything documented, the treasures accounted for, the debts settled, but one inventory remains open. One page remains unfinished. It is the inventory of the soul, the accounting of the true cost, of that ancient crown, that heavy, glorious crown. We search the scrolls. We sift the powdered ink. We seek the hidden chamber, the resting place the quiet vault, we find only stone, cold stone, and the persistent scent of iron and memory. They say the true secret was not wealth, not gold piled high in subterranean rooms. The true secret was not power, measured in legions and ships. The true secret was an artifact, a thing of such profound stillness. It could stop the beating of a heart. A mirror, perhaps, a simple relic. Something held close, something precious. It vanished the day the king died. It vanished like breath on cold air. It left no shadow, no trail, no sign. Only the rumor, the relentless rumor. Did he destroy it? Did he hide it deep beneath the bedrock? Did he carry it with him into the silence of the unknown tomb? The historians argue, the archaeologists dig. They brush the dirt away. They chase the faint outline of myth. They chase the shadow of a forgotten god. But the artifact remains untouched. It remains unfound. It remains the missing piece. The reason the king's eyes seem vacant. In every surviving carving, we know his triumph. We know his tragedy. We do not know his final intention. We do not know the purpose of the void. We do not know what he feared losing more than the kingdom itself. We do not know what he feared losing more than the memory of his name. The mystery persists. The mystery endures. It sleeps beneath the great hills. It waits in the deep sea fog. The untold story, the hidden truth. We close this now. We allow the dust to settle. We allow the heavy silence to return to the chamber of the sleeping king. But we do not sleep yet. We do not rest our search, because far to the east, beyond the whispering pines, there lived another order, an order that existed only to watch, only to record. They were the silent cartographers. They drew maps, not of kingdoms, but of absences. They mapped the silence. They charted the secrets of those who disappeared. Next time, we leave the tombs behind. We journey into the silent monastery, where the monks did not speak, but wrote endlessly in dark-bound books. We will find the key. We will follow the ink trail, the trail that leads not to a king's buried treasure, but to the place where all the memories of the world are finally stored. We are going deep into the archive of the unseen, deep into the silent stone. I remember the fire, the terrible amber glow. It licked the eaves of the mind, a sound like shattering glass. The crackling wood, the hiss of sap, scent of burning pine and old wool, a smell that stays with you, a smell like fear. We forget that the medieval world was always burning, always, a world of short, bright moments, interrupted by ash. But the secret of the pilgrim, the forgotten secret, is this. They walked to escape the flames outside, the plague, the hunger, the war, only to walk into a greater fire within, a fire of reckoning. Why did they walk when the pain of the path was more searing than the pain of sin? To Historlalube, I am Nasrallah, and this is 7. The road demands. The road demands always. It asks nothing of your spirit, only of your heels, the slow crunch of grit beneath worn leather, a sound you carry now in your bones. We are far past the joyful singing, the initial rush of grace. Now there is only the slow ache. The weight remains, the weight of the scrip, the weight of the cloak, the weight of the 100 sins you carried from home, all of it pressing down upon the arch of your foot, the endless repetition, left foot, right foot, left foot, the hypnotic sway of the walking staff, like a metronome counting down not hours, but debts. We consider the gray light of morning, the mist that clings to the hedgerows. Dampness is your constant companion now, the cold seep of the air into the joints, the cloth damp against your skin. You walk through fields, you walk through villages. They are ghosts to you, faces watching you pass. The farmer, the weaver, the child. They stare at the mark of the shell, the sign that you are moving, moving when they must stay, rooted to the land that holds their dust. The medieval pilgrimage is not a tourist trip. It is an of exhaustion, an intellectual form of penance. The brain slowly goes numb. The thoughts slow down. They become large, heavy stones, rolling slowly in the mind's vast chamber. The path becomes the only reality. The world shrinks to the size of the next muddy rut. The world shrinks to the feeling of the blister. A hot, burning star on the pad of your foot. That star is your focus now. That pain is your prayer. The road demands. The road demands silence. You stopped talking days ago. The few words spoken are functional. Water bred rest. Silence allows the slow turning, the internal reckoning. What did I do? Why am I here? Was the promise of Canterbury worth this slow erosion of muscle and mind? The answer, the only answer available, is always just the slow, hypnotic step. Think of the sounds now, the rhythmic scraping of wood on stone, the distant lowing of a cow, the sudden rush of a stream. All these sounds exist within the deep, resonant silence of the deep forest, of the mind that is finally emptying itself of the daily clamor, emptying itself of fear, emptying itself of everything but the walk. The walk remains. We seek the destination, the shining cathedral, the tomb of the martyr. But the secret is that the destination is built within the journey itself. Every step is a brick. Every stumble is mortar. The slow building of a different self, a lighter self, washed clean not by holy water, but by sweat and road dust, washed clean by the sheer unbearable tedium, the tedium that strips away, the tedium that reveals. The walk is the fire. The walk is the cleansing fire. It burns away the unnecessary layers, leaving only the simple human core, walking toward the light, walking toward Canterbury, one slow ache at a time, one slow ache, one slow ache. The fire breathes low now, a careful breath of crackling juniper and dry oak. The air holds still, a thick soup of wood smoke, and old damp wool, and the faint metallic tang of sweat that no amount of rain can truly wash away. We sit on rough ground, the cold earth, a memory beneath the thin blanket of fire warmth. The heat is a small circle, a precious, fragile boundary between us and the vast, hungry night. Listen close to the fire. It whispers the secrets of the forest, the slow, steady consumption, the constant dying to bring life. Listen closer still to the sound the pilgrim makes when he thinks no one is listening. It is not a sound of prayer. It is the deep, wet cough that shakes the bones. The pilgrimage demands sacrifice, but not always the spiritual kind. Sometimes the sacrifice is simply lung tissue. Sometimes the sacrifice is the last shilling, stolen by the hosteler in the name of God. This is the gray road, the road they do not sing about in the hymns. The road to Canterbury is paved, not only with pious intent, but with the deep moral compromises of survival. Look at the faces across the flames, hollowed faces drawn taut by hunger. They speak of relics and saints, but their eyes flicker to the meager crust of bread in the pouch of the man beside them. A desperate calculation, a quiet, shameful hunger. The hunger remembers the body. The hunger remembers the body's weakness. The hunger is louder than the Ave Maria. The faith is real, yes, but so too is the arithmetic of need. We smell the fear now. It clings to the leather boots, the scent of poorly tanned hide, and the pervasive odor of feet that have walked since dawn, and will walk before dawn. The feet are the true penitents. The feet weep silent, bloody tears into the damp binding wraps. They say pilgrimage cleanses the soul, but who cleanses the wounds? Who cleanses the wounds that fester? Beneath the pious smile, the blisters burst silently. The pus drips into the soil, a small sacrifice to the English mud. The cold mud accepts it all. The cold is relentless. It wraps around the ankles. It gnaws at the joints. It penetrates the threadbare cloak. The cold remembers your weakness. The cold remembers the lack of a proper inn. The cold remembers every time you slept on the frozen ground. The cold is always waiting, just outside the circle of the amber light. We feed the fire. We feed the fire slowly, giving it the time it needs to catch, to sputter, to roar just a little. The sound is soothing, the steady sizzle hiss, the dry sap escaping like a captured spirit. But beneath that soothing sound, there is the sound of the marketplace, the vendor selling fake bones, the man swearing his vial holds holy water when it is just river water, stagnant and foul. The moral grays are thick here. They are as thick as the choking smoke that drifts across the weary faces. Does God accept the journey, even when the journey is funded by a whispered lie or a desperate theft of half a sausage roll? Does God measure the faith, or just the steps, step after step after grueling step? The exhaustion is a physical weight. It crushes the shoulders. It pushes the chin down toward the chest. We sit here now, in the golden breath of the fire, watching the smoke curl high. We tell ourselves we are cleansed. We tell ourselves we are close. But the stain of the road, the smell of the road, the aching doubt of the road, it saturates the soul. It is cold. It is deeply, deeply cold. And the fire is dying down. We must walk soon. Walk, 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 with the ghosts of our needs, right beside the angels of our prayers. The pilgrimage ends, but the path never truly closes. Listen closely now to the silence. The silent ache the way. The feet remember the stone. They have returned. The pilgrims have returned from Canterbury's cold heart. They carry not gold, not jewels, merely dust. Dust of the road, dust in the clothing, dust in the soul. The heavy pack is gone, the long staffs laid aside, but something remains heavier than the staff, more precious than gold, a memory held deep, a secret whispered only to the self. The weary step is still the familiar step, but the view from the window is different now. The journey was a cleansing, a great washing away. But what was washed away, and what new burden was taken on? That is the lasting mystery of the road, the deep unspoken contract with the soil. The legacy is not carved in stone. It is written in the water stains on the map. The water stains and the worn heel of the boot. They walked through the sun, through the rain, through the fear. They walked past the hidden groves, past the whispering inns, and the secrets they heard, the confessions exchanged under the gaze of a slow moon. Those secrets were sealed by the distance traveled, sealed by the profound repetitive rhythm of the stride, the endless sound of walking, walking, walking. That sound becomes the music of their later lives, a deep hum beneath the chatter of the marketplace. The legacy is simple and profound. The path exists because they walked it. They lent their breath to the stones. They lent their muscle to the mud, and that energy remains, a faint amber glow clinging to the ancient root. It is the warmth of 1,000 campfires, the slow scent of burning pine, still haunting the edges of the fields. It is the echo of the crackling wood, the gentle hypnotic rhythm of the flame that warmed them on the journey out. They sought salvation. Did they find it? Perhaps they found only the profound relief of having endured, of having stood shoulder to shoulder with fate itself. The road to Canterbury promised release, but it delivered only itself, a long, hard mirror held up to a searching soul. And now the final question remains, the great mystery we must acknowledge before we close the door on this leg of the story. If the dust of the road holds their secrets, if the legacy is imprinted in the earth, what happens when the earth itself is challenged? What happens when the faith that built these paths is challenged by a new kind of fire, a fire not of pine wood or candle wax, but a sudden consuming flame of ambition, of political hunger, of absolute destructive chain? The Canterbury Pilgrims returned home, but home was not waiting in silence. The world they left behind was slowly beginning to splinter. Imagine now, a generation later, when the weight of history becomes too much to bear, when the icons they sought are shattered, when the very concept of pilgrimage becomes dangerous, we must leave the soft, comforting rhythm of the pilgrim's footfalls for now. We must turn our gaze away from the gentle roads of faith and towards the towering black smoke of rebellion. Next time, we explore the great shaking, the terrifying silence after the axe falls. We trace the road that led not to salvation, but to the shattering of all sacred things. We listen for the sound, the awful sound of the dissolution. The fire remembers everything. The fire remembers the scent of damp wool and old sweat. It remembers the cold that bites the throat and the sheer joy of the rising heat. The wood is wet green pine. It hisses. It snaps a sound of pure ancient. Look how the smoke coils thick and slow. Look at the amber glow. A heartbeat pulsing on the wet earth. You smell the burnt sugar of sap and the heavy breath of your companions. That momentary warmth, that sweet delusion of safety. That is the anchor that holds the medieval world together. But tell me this, as the fire sinks into ash and the road calls you back, why did they walk so far? Why did they walk so slow? Why did they make the journey so deliberately hard? Was the true pilgrimage not the arrival at the shrine, but the necessary exhaustion, the profound, slow, deliberate forgetting of everything else? The dawn breaks gray and cold. It is not a beautiful sunrise. It is just the lifting of the heavy dark, a practical necessity, a signal that the feet must move. The road waits. It always waits. A muddy track carved by centuries of peasants and soldiers and pilgrims like us. You pull the rough cloak tight around your chest. The leather of your boots feels hard and unforgiving. The pack straps cut into your shoulders. A small weight, yes, but a crushing weight when carried across 10,000 miles of earth. We are pilgrims walking to Canterbury, but the destination is weeks away. Weeks of walking, weeks of simple necessity, weeks of profound, unceasing movement. We measure the pilgrimage not in saints or prayers. We measure it in pain, the sharp ache in the hip bone, the wet, relentless grinding of the stone under the boot sole, the dust, the endless fine dust that coats the tongue and fills the nostrils. Walk, walk, the rhythm begins, a slow, hypnotic cadence that overtakes thought itself. The left foot lands, the right foot follows. The staff taps the earth. Left, right tap, left, right tap. It is the oldest music in the world. The sound of endurance, the sound of faith made manifest in sheer repetitive labor. The first few hours are fueled by the memory of the fire, a brief energy that quickly dissolves into the reality of the mile. The landscape does not rush to meet you. The villages appear only after exhaustive effort. Each copse of trees, each rise in the road, is exactly like the last. Your world shrinks. It becomes the 6 feet of road directly in front of you. The gray sky above, the wet leather of your glove, The mind tires long before the body. It is the boredom that breaks men, not the hunger, not the blister, but the unutterable sameness of the path. Mile after mile, we carry the weight of our intentions, the sin we seek to absolve, the promise we made in desperation, the burden we hope to lay down at Thomas Becket's tomb. But how can you hold onto intention when your mind is filled only with the mechanical grinding of movement, when your thoughts are as thin and scattered as the autumn leaves swirling at your ankles? The weeks blur. They become one endless afternoon of aching muscle and damp air. You eat hard bread. You drink cold water. You sleep on straw that smells of mice and old rye. And then you wake before the light, because the road waits. The road waits. The pilgrimage is designed to empty you, to strip away the noise of the hearth and the market, to silence the nagging voice of ambition or pride. It is a profound and slow undoing. We walk so slowly, so arduously, because we must become dust before we can become devout. We must walk until the body is just a vessel for movement, and the soul is finally too weary to argue with God. Left-right tab. The path demands everything. The stone, the dust, the mile, the next moment. It demands only one thing. Keep walking, and you keep walking. The fire breathes low now, a slow, deep furnace breath, hissing and sighing against the wind. The amber solace of the long night, the only barrier between us and the ancient enemy, the deep, relentless cold. You can smell the journey on us still, the damp wool-soaked days ago, the wood smoke clinging to every thread, the earthy musk of unwashed skin, 1,000 miles of sweat and prayer, 1,000 miles of desperate hope. We sit still by the dwindling warmth, and the silence is heavy, not the silence of peace, but the silence of exhaustion, the silence that begs a question. Did the pain purify us, or did the pain just make us weary? The masters of the they promised grace at Canterbury. They promised salvation for this ordeal. They never spoke of the grinding moral cost, the cost of simply surviving. Look closely at the faces hidden in shadow. Each flicker of light shows a momentary truth. The jaw tight with hunger, the eye sharp with suspicion. We were meant to be brothers here, children of God walking toward light. But the paths, the demanding path, it broke the spirit. It showed us the ugly underside of faith. The man next to you, he keeps his hand inside his cloak. Is it piety, or is it a stolen purse? The woman across the flames, her cough tears at her chest. Did she spend the last coins meant for bread on a fake saint's tooth, sold just yesterday by a smiling rogue in Ashford? The path asks a price, and the price is never just prayer. The price is always paid in flesh, and the price is always paid in compromise. We came seeking heaven's forgiveness, but we walk through a world of gray dust and gray intention. The rich pilgrim hires armed to protect his penance. The poor pilgrim prays someone rich will die. so he might take their blanket? Is the prayer still holy when uttered by chattering teeth? Is the intention still pure when the soul calculates the hours until the next meager inn, until the next chance for a fleeting warmth? The cold outside is velvet black. It presses against the thin walls of the rest house. It creeps under the door. It whispers the truth of the road. The stone bruises the bone. The bone cries out. The feet remember the endless repetition. Step, 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 until the spirit is beaten into submission. We believe the relic will heal us, but the road itself, it infects us. It strips away the social mask. It reveals the desperate animal beneath the woolen cloak. We trade our decency for survival. We hoard the heat. We eye the small water skin. We forget the sermon on the mount, because the road, the merciless road, it owns us now. The fire crackles once more. A brief defiant sound, a tiny shout against the darkness. It smells sweet, the scent of burning pine and history, a history of suffering, a history of hypocrisy. We lie here tonight, sore and shivering, having walked toward holiness, only to meet our own shadow, and in the darkness judges no one, but the cold judges everyone. Listen close to the sound of the wind. It is the sound of time passing, the time you cannot get back, the price you are paying for a forgiveness you may never truly feel, a forgiveness buried deep under layers of wet cold and the heavy weight of human cost. We walk toward Canterbury, but what we truly find is only ourselves by the dying fire, in the silence, the heavy, heavy silence. We look now on the empty path. The dust has settled. The sun has dipped low over the stones of Canterbury. We close the door softly on the echo of their footsteps, those weary souls who walked and walked and walked. For weeks and months, they sought salvation, a cleansing fire. They sought the touch of the saint's bone, the promise of reprieve. But what did they truly find? In the chill stone halls, we remember the sound of the rain, the cold of the lodging house floor, the endless gray landscape rolling out toward oblivion. The pilgrim returns home, but the pilgrim is not the same. The journey leaves a shadow, a slow erosion of the self they were. They carried sins, heavy sacks of regret, but they also carried secrets, whispers of trade, whispers of espionage, whispers of forbidden longing. The road demanded a cost, more than mere shillings, more than painful knees. It demanded the surrender of certainty. The faith they started with was ground down to a grit, a sharp small piece of knowing that rested deep inside the chest. We imagine the scent of the candles, the thick velvet silence of the crypt, the damp air that preserved history, and the slow, slow, slow decay of everything else. Where are their names now? Those millions who shuffled their lives away in pursuit of a miracle, a moment of divine attention. Their boots are dust, their staffs are splinters, their prayers are merely breath caught in the heavy weave of time. But the path remains. The path remembers the fear. The small comforts the shared bread. The fear that never left them. The mystery is not the destination. The mystery is the why. Why surrender so completely to the endless movement, the constant lack of rest? It was escape. It was penance. It was perhaps a form of slow dying, a preparation for the earth. They vanished into the flow of the Middle Ages. 1,000 anonymous faces, 1,000 unspoken traumas. We trace the line backward from the final blessing to the gate they left in the morning mist, and we find only absence, a profound, beautiful absence, a quiet truth that the greatest human journeys are marked not by triumphs, but by the sheer tenacity of suffering. The legacy of the pilgrimage is not the relic. The legacy is the deep understanding that we are creatures of momentum. We must move. We must seek. We must walk and walk and walk, even if the destination offers only more dust. And as we settle down now into the low amber glow of the fire, and as the ancient journey fades from the edges of our dreaming, we must ask a final question, a question about the world outside the path. We have seen the devotion. We have felt the prayer. But what happens when the road is not merely long and tedious? What happens when the darkness rises, not from a lack of faith, but from a deep, terrible certainty of something truly wicked, something ancient and hungry? We must prepare now to leave the road of weary pilgrims and step into the shadow cast by the church itself. What were the secrets locked in the black monasteries, the ones the simple pilgrim never saw, the ones guarded by silence and steel? Next time we will examine the black earth rituals, the deepest secrets of the medieval night, the forgotten pacts, the hidden history that sleeps beneath the stone. Sleep deeply now. The journey is done, but the fear has only just begun. The fire, it begins there. In the deep wood smell, the scent of pine needles burning down slow. You hear the snap, the crackle, the high-pitched pop of wood sap fighting the heat. An amber glow on tired skin, a warmth that lied to the cold road outside. A secret warmth. We think of the pilgrimage as faith, pure faith. But the secret, the true forgotten secret of the medieval road, is that the walking itself was the penance, the pure physical tedium, the exhaustion that became a lullaby. Did they walk for God, or did they walk to escape their lives? Did they walk for penance, or just for the endless hope of not starving tomorrow? We follow the slow steps today. We follow the dust of the forgotten road. The long road unwinds, a thread of gray earth through the dark forest. The path is uneven, always uneven. Root systems lifting the soil like sleeping giants. Loose stones shifting beneath heavy leather boots. If you wore boots, if you were lucky enough to own a boot, many walked in bindings of cloth, bindings of damp wool. The pressure, the constant pressure on the arch of the foot, the heel bone striking the dirt, striking the dirt. Hundreds of times every hour, thousands of times every day. This walking, this endless forward motion. The landscape offers small comfort, a field of harvested stubble, a slow-moving stream choked with green weeds. The sound is repetition, the thud of the staff hitting the ground, the rhythm of breath held then released, a shallow gasp, then a long sigh, the sound of leather rubbing leather, the whisper of robes, the whisper of cloaks, against the rough fabric of the sack, containing their few possessions, a dried crust of bread, a small wooden cup, a prayer written on cheap parchment. This is the wealth of the pilgrim. The dust of the road settles. It settles on the eyelashes. It settles in the crevices of the skin. It turns sweat into a paste of earth. The mind begins to drift. It must drift. The mind cannot sustain focus on such profound boredom. The journey becomes a meditation forced upon the soul. The pilgrim seeks God, but finds first the boundaries of the self, the pain in the hip, the tightness in the shoulder strap, the endless horizon, always receding, always pulling away. The sun is their clock. The ache is their calendar. The shadows lengthen, then shrink, then lengthen, repeating the cycle, repeating the cycle. The path demands everything. It demands silence and solitude, even when walking in a group. Listen closely. You can hear their voices. Low murmurs, prayers recited by rote. The Ave Maria, the Kyrie a lesson. The words lose their meaning. They become sounds, a low, continuous drone, a sound that comforts because it requires no thought, just the memory of sound. The air is heavy with the scent of damp wool and wood smoke. When they stop for the night, they search for the fire, the glorious deceptive fire that promises rest it cannot truly deliver. They sleep in barns or under hedgerows, curled tight against the cold breath of the night. They dream not of saints or cathedrals. They dream of soft beds. They dream of warm, clean water. They dream of standing still, just standing still for 1 hour. The secret of the road is the stillness they crave, the stillness that only Canterbury can offer, the journey to the shrine of Thomas Becket. It is not a sprint. It is the opposite of a sprint. It is a profound slowness, a deliberate refusal of haste. The true distance is measured not in miles, but in the weight of every morning rising, the weight of every step taken, the sheer, unrelenting weight of the tedious history, the endless rhythm of the path, the walking, the walking, the walking. The fire breathes now, a deep, slow breath. It pulls the darkness close and devours it. Hear the crackle, the wood splitting hard. A sudden hiss as the sap escapes the pine. Look at the amber glow. It paints your weary face. It warms the skin. It masks the true cold waiting. The true cold always waiting. We walk to save our souls, we say. We walk for grace. But what is salvation when the road demands the sin? What is the penance when the very of piety requires you to steal, requires you to push, requires you to hate? What forgotten secret sleeps beneath the stones of Canterbury? That the road itself is the greater judge than God. Look deeper into the red heart of the heat. The smoke is heavy now. It fills the low ceiling. It carries the scent of wet wool, of unwashed bodies, of stale bread. The humanity of the sickness, not health. He will not make it. He knows it. He walks still. The wool of your tunic, it smells of the wet earth. It smells of 3 weeks' sweat and stale rain. The scent of burning pine tries to cleanse it, but the scent of the man next to you remains. Heavy breathing, a rattling cough, a desperate, tired sound. The cold waits outside the thin cloth door. The cold waits outside the thin cloth door. It presses against the walls of this fragile shelter. You feel it in your bones, a deep, persistent ache, the kind of ache that prayer cannot quiet. This journey is not paved with saintly goodness. It is paved with compromises. It is paved with the small decisions made when hunger bites, when the belly screams louder than the bell. Did you see the baker in Rochester today? His bread was fresh, his face was hard. You paid too much, or perhaps you paid too little, or perhaps you simply took the loaf. The shadow passed quickly. You told yourself need is not theft. Need is not theft when salvation hangs upon the walking. But the fire knows, the fire always knows. It sees the small cruelties done in the name of the cross. The way you shoved the old woman for the spot near the hearth. The way you denied the meager crust to the boy who lagged behind. The boy who lagged and fell. The road makes monsters of the meek. The road makes monsters of the devout. Listen now to the wind outside the inn. It whistles a thin, bitter song. It is a sound of emptiness, of the vast, indifferent landscape that cares nothing for your penance. It cares nothing for your destination. It only demands that you continue to move. Your feet, poor feet, your blisters weep silently beneath the thick linen wraps. They are the true relics of this pilgrimage, more holy perhaps than any bone displayed in the cathedral. They tell the honest tale, the tale of pain, the tale of endurance, the tale of necessary cruelty. The pilgrims surrounding you are not saints sleeping. They are exhausted, selfish animals, huddled for warmth, each one dreaming of a softer bed, a full meal, a moment without fear. Each one guarding their small space, their meager possessions. This is the grace we seek, a grace bought at the cost of our daily kindness, a grace bought at the cost of our shared humanity. The embers fade now, a low red pulsing light. The sound of the fire is quieter, a soft, steady hiss. It watches your conflicted thoughts. It watches the darkness creep back into the corners. It waits for the morning, when you must pull the cold wool over your wounds and step back out onto the unforgiving road. The road knows your secrets. The road knows your sins. The road demands the cost. The pilgrimage is the burden itself. pilgrimage is the gray. The dust settles now. The path is quiet now. We walked these ancient routes. We measured the fatigue, the gnawing hunger, the blistered heel, the scent of damp wool and old rain, the faint metallic tang of effort. But the true journey, the journey that lingers, it was never only in the miles. It was in the memory of what was left behind, the memory that fueled the walking, the silent confession whispered to the passing wind, the shadow of the self we hoped to shed. The path fades behind us. The path fades behind us, like the ember glow of a campfire extinguished by the dew. Look closely at the legacy. It is not in the grand cathedrals built centuries later. It is not in the stained glass portraits of saints we hardly know. The legacy is smaller. It is the unseen thing, the deep groove worn into the threshold of an obscure village, the worn smooth stone beside the river, where countless thousands knelt to drink, the knowledge that, for a moment, for a few brief aching weeks, they were all equals, all searching for the same impossible stillness. The silence remains. The silence remains, a quiet echo of their footsteps, a gentle murmur beneath the modern pavement. What did they find at Canterbury? We ask this still. We look for the answers in the yellowed parchment. We trace the lines of medieval maps. Did they find absolution? Did the weight truly lift? Or did they merely trade one heavy burden for the glorious new weight of having survived the path itself? The mystery is this internal shift. The mystery is the simple endurance, how the mind finds peace only when the body is utterly broken, how the greatest revelation is often just the deep sleep earned at the end of the day. We have followed the rules of the journey, the rules of the road, the rules of the medieval heart. We have felt the cold of the morning fog, the warmth of the communal bread. The path we walked is now only a ribbon of memory, a gentle hum in the earth beneath us. But there are always shadows that cling to the history, always a twist of fate, a secret carried too close. We speak of the collective pilgrimage, the slow, steady march of the many. But what of the ones who vanished? What of the pilgrim who set out and was never seen? The official records list hundreds, thousands who completed the journey, received the tokens, returned home to tell the tale. But there are whispers in the archives, faint notations scribbled in the margins of ledger books about the missing list, the travelers who reached the last staging post and simply dissolved into the dense fog of Kent. They did not die on the road. They did not turn back home. They just ceased to be pilgrims. We have followed the path to its end. Now we must look beyond the road, beyond the destination. We must find the hidden names, the forgotten travelers, those who did not seek forgiveness, but instead sought escape. We must find the shadow story, the dark heart beating beneath the pious tale, the hidden secret kept close to the ancient stones of England. Next we search for the one lost name, the one final mystery. We seek the list that was never supposed to be found, the ledger of the disappeared, the one who walked out of history itself. We seek the pilgrim, known only as Ethelred, and the terrible secret he carried, a secret darker than the deepest medieval night. We remember the fire, always the fire. The wood groaned low, a deep amber glow swallowed the darkness. We smelled the pine sap spitting slow spitting peace into the cold air. That smoke, that thick white smoke, stinging our eyes, stinging our tired souls. The crackle, the steady crackle, the comfort of the heat pressing close. We forgot the miles. Then the fire erased the hunger, the pain, the dread. It was the oldest magic, the warmth, holding back the vast, empty night. But the fire was a thief too. It stole the present moment, the hard, walking the silent purpose. The fire lied and said the journey was easy. But was the journey ever about the fire, about the sermons, about the relics? Was the pilgrimage truly about the holy destination? Or was it about the walking itself, the endless walking, the punishing repetition, the quiet mind that exhaustion demanded? This forgotten secret haunts the ancient roads of Kent. Did they walk for God, or did they walk just to be quiet, just to empty the jar of their noisy thoughts, just to escape the world they left behind in dust and argument? The true medieval pilgrimage was not a grand spiritual awakening. It was a study in profound, relentless tedium. 10 finds us closer to the cathedral, closer to the shrine of Thomas. But the miles still stretch cruel and indifferent. Feel the ground beneath your borrowed boots. The dust is thick, now the chalky white dust, clinging to the damp wool of your hose. It sticks to the sweat behind your knees. It powders your brow. The air is stale heavy, with the scent of unwashed bodies, and old leather, and distant manure. Listen to the rhythm, the only music we have left. Hush, it is the sound of walking, the thud of the staff, the shush of feet dragging slightly along the track. Step after step after step, the sun moves slow across the pale sky. We watch the shadows short, then lengthen, marking the terrible passage of time. We crave the evening fire, but the road demands the miles now. It demands our discipline, our absolute silence. We are no longer men and women. We are simply mechanisms for locomotion, a slow machine of faith, or perhaps just stubborn habit. The body aches with a deep, profound dullness. It is not a sharp pain that demands attention, but a pervasive ache, a heavy cloak woven from weariness and heat and damp. We have walked through the stinging rain. We have walked under the relentless weight of the August sun. We have walked until the muscles in our calves felt like stretched rope, dry and tight. We are pilgrims of the slow march. We have surrendered the excitement of the first days, the false piety of the tavern stops. Now there is only the road, the inescapable road. The road is the true confessor. It strips away your performance, your pretense. It reveals the core of you, the simple creature that desires only rest and cool water. Think of your feet. Do not look at them, simply feel them. Each step is a dull hammer blow against the soul, a fresh insult to the blister. The blister is not a wound. It is a character on this journey, a silent companion. It demands respect and careful handling. We stop only when the body insists, when the bladder protests, when the sun dips below the far horizon, painting the sky in hopeless shades of gray and bruised purple. We walk and we walk and we walk. The road offers the ultimate medieval lullaby, the steady hypnotizing swing of the journey, mindless movement that forces the higher thought to cease its clamor. We seek Canterbury, but we are finding something else entirely, something small and quiet in the monotonous motion. The world shrinks to the space between your hands on the staff and the next bend in the path. We are approaching the final days, the true test of endurance. The proximity of the goal does not make the walking easier. It makes the walking harder. Every mile now feels like two, a heavy burden of anticipation. The walls of the cathedral are rumored to be visible soon, a sight that threatens to shatter the careful emptiness we have built within ourselves. But do not look up yet. Look down at the dusty track. Focus on the thud, the shush, the thud. Let the road take you away now. Let the tedium be your meditation. We walk and we walk and we walk. We watch the fire. We watch the fire. The orange tongue licks the black air. The ember light pulses low and steady, a heartbeat of heat against the endless gray world outside. We are not clean here. Pilgrims we are called, but the dust of the road clings to the soul as deeply as it clings to the hem of the tunic. Listen now to the sound of the cough, the wet rattle deep in the chest. This is the human cost of salvation, sought in winter. The cost is pneumonia and chill. The cost is the ache in the knees that never leaves us. The damp wool smells of sheep and stale sweat. A heavy smell, a history smell. The mud we carry is cold and deep. It clings to the leather bindings. It smells of earth that promises nothing but more walking. The only relief is this silent heat, this amber forgiveness, this temporary truce with the cold. We huddled close to the stones, each man guarding his small space, his thin blanket, his right to rest without intrusion, because even piety on the road breeds suspicion. It breeds hunger. It breeds the moral. Gray, did the vendor selling the sliver of supposed true cross truly believe? Or did necessity carve out a space for deception? Did the innkeeper offer the stale bread out of charity or expectation of future favor? Grace had a tariff. Grace had a price tag. Grace demanded a shilling for the bedroll. We are walking for absolution, but we must constantly commit small sins to survive the walk. The small thefts, the justified lies, the silence when we see another struggle. We walked this road. We walk this road still. The blisters bloom. The blisters bloom silently beneath the grime. They are badges of honor nobody sees. Nobody cares to see. They are private agonies offered up to the promise of Becket. the low hiss of the sap escaping the pine log, a comforting sound, a deceptive sound. It suggests permanence where there is none. The fire will die, the dawn will come too soon, and the cold will rush back in with the morning air. The cold waits just beyond the light. The cold waits for the wood to turn to ash. It is a hungry cold. It is a penetrating cold. The sound of silence when the wind drops is the sound of absolute exhaustion. The mind ceases to chase hope. It only counts the miles remaining. It only traces the pattern of the smoke rising up into the unknown darkness. The darkness holds the real story of the pilgrimage, not the songs sung in the taverns, not the grand declarations of faith at the starting gate, but the low murmur of doubt at 3 in the morning, when the bone chills and the stomach twists, when the idea of heaven seems too far, too impossible a reward for this simple physical suffering. We watch the fire, we breathe the smoke, we allow the heat to fool us just for this hour. The heat is a forgotten secret, a momentary luxury, granted by simple friction and the death of a tree. Ask yourself now, when the journey requires you to abandon your comforts, when every step is paid for in pain and moral compromise, is the ultimate destination still the goal? Or does the endurance itself, the sheer raw difficult of walking, become the entire prayer? The journey ends not with a fanfare, but with the softest sigh. We watch the shadows stretch. We watch the shadows grow long. The amber glow of our pilgrimage fire has surrendered its brilliance. The crackling would now just as a gentle hiss of fatting heat. We have walked the 1,000 miles. We have walked the painful path, the path to Canterbury. But the true journey was always the one inside the mind, the slow, tedious turning of thought. The medieval soul sought absolution, sought the relic, the sacred bone, sought the forgiveness of the Father. We seek something else now. We seek the silence. We seek the space between the steps. The dust settles, the dust settles. On the road we traveled together. Think of the legacy of that walking, not the stone buildings left behind, but the movement itself, the constant migration of belief, the enduring human need to escape, the familiar field, the comfortable chair. Generation after generation, they pulled on rough woolen cloaks. They tied the leather sandals. They stepped out into the biting wind. They were always moving, always moving, always seeking. This need to walk, to suffer, deliberately. This is the great historical mystery. The pilgrimage was a forced meditation, a weeks-long exposure to hardship, designed to strip the traveler bare. They carried the weight of their sins. They carried the weight of their fears. And somewhere between the endless gray fields and the cold, biting drizzle, the weight must have shifted. They found a different map, not the map of rivers and towns, but the inner map of resignation and grace. We cannot know exactly what they saw when they finally knelt at Becket's shrine. We cannot know the texture of their relief, the depth of their tired prayers, The voices are gone now. The echoing chants are gone. The scent of sweat and smoke and damp wool, that scent is gone. All that remains is the path, a forgotten secret pathway etched into the landscape of time, and the knowledge that they did it. They endured the tedium. They endured the pain. They knew the profound power of putting one foot in front of the other. Slowly, slowly, hypnotically, listen to the silence now. Listen to the wind. It carries the whispers of every pilgrim who ever questioned their choice, who ever wanted to turn back. They kept walking. The fire is a deep crimson heart now, beating slowly. It is almost done, almost done. The scent of burning pine is replaced by the cool scent of night dew. The journey ends not when you reach the destination, but when the flame dies. The lesson of the long road is the beauty of slowness, the dignity of the slow step, the acceptance of the tedious moment. Rest now. Rest your mind and your heart. The HISDOR fire has given its final warmth. The shadows claim the space we shared. I am Ene Asarulali. Sleep deeply. Sleep now.